Hello and welcome to the latest edition of Lunchtime Learnings. I know it's been a long time and you've all been waiting and you've all been calling for it to come back. Well, I'm delighted to be joined today by Jamie Aspland, who is the MD of, it looks like Jameson's. And how long have you been going, Jamie?
The grand scheme of 5 days currently at Jamson's. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, look, I wish you massive success with that. So thank you for coming on. And how'd you get into agency? Tell us your story.
I think it goes back quite a long way for me, to be perfectly honest. I am not ashamed to say it, but I always say was, but I'm very dyslexic. And I went back to when I was at primary school. I was watching these people pick up what I now know is a book and reading it, and I had no idea what they were doing and what I was meant to do the same. So I picked something up and was looking at symbols on the page, which turned out to be letters, and it took a while to get to do that. So how did I get into agency? So I then realised that I'm going to have to be a bit different to everyone else. I'm going to have to work slightly differently. So I got a job when I was at school. I worked my father's an accountant, my mum was a hairdresser. My dad always taught me to work hard, so I got a job when I was at school. I did a company called um, Parcel Force, which are now like your Every and them sort of people, but I don't think they're still going now. But I went at I think it was 6 in the morning till 8 and loaded the trucks to go out and deliver parcels. And I went back at 6 till 9 at night and basically on the collections took them back out and put them into cages and they went to various things. And I met a chap there and he's a great guy. And I think he celebrated his 41st year of working there when I was there. And he said to me one day, "Do you know what, Jamie? There's weeks where I don't know, I can't remember anything about what I've done." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And he said, "Well, basically, I've done it for so long now that I sort of just go through the motions and just basically will just go and do it instead of anything else. And I'll just go and do it and not think about it." And I thought, oh, I'm not quite like that. My brain's a bit different. So I knew that I had to get into something which was different every day. And to be perfectly honest, I always wanted to be an estate agent. My dad's company at the time, they sold agricultural machinery, but they did have Subaru and Isuzu. And at the time, Colin McRae was winning rallies, if you remember him. And they weren't a hard sell. And I looked at car sales and I thought, no, I want to be different. So I decided one day I was going to be an estate agent. So I did my A levels, which going back a stage was a big thing when I was struggled with what I struggled with. And it was frustrating because I had some of them mates that could basically say to me, "Oh, I've not revised for this, Jamie." And I say, "Oh, okay, no worries." And then 3 months down the line, they're getting A stars. Back in the day, they're not numbers, but they were letters back then, A stars. And I'll be thinking, that's frustrating. I wish I could do that. But yeah, so anyway, I decided I went to my dad's one Sunday evening and said to him, "Right, I'm off to university, Dad." And he said, "All right, sit down." So I thought, this is ominous. And he said to me, "You go to university, are you?" I said, "Yeah, I am, Dad, yeah." He said, "Oh, I thought you wanted to be an estate agent." I said, "I do, but I've had a chat with a few people and they say I'm too young to be an estate agent." And he said, "All right, so what are you going to do at university then?" I said, I'm still deciding at the moment." He went, "You're not going to university." And I went, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, I'm not funding that." I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "Well, if you can't tell me what you want to do, there's no way I'm letting you go there." He said, "You're going there because you want to get drunk with your mates." And I was like, yeah, you've got a point, to be fair. So I had to hold my hands up at that moment and say, "Yeah, I can't, I'm not going to be doing that." So he said to me, "Right, I'll do you a deal." Unfortunately, well, my mum and dad are separated. He said, "Your mum will want me to." So he said, "You can come work where I work for a year, but that's it." Because you're not, he started when he was 16 there. So he said, "But that's it. After 365 days, you're out." I said, "Oh, all right." So what to do? He said, basically gives you time to get a job in a state agency. So if you remember back to the Yellow Pages days, I'd go on a Sunday evening to his house, and one week I'd write to every agent in Newark. I should probably say I'm in Lincolnshire at the moment, and I lived in Grantham. So I wrote to one agent in Newark, one agent in Lincoln, one agent in Grantham, and one agent in Sleaford. And I'd go on the Monday morning and hand deliver all these CVs round to estate agents. And it only happened for a short amount of time. And then I joined a state agency in 2004, which was probably, if you look back at it now, Stephen, the very start of the the 2007 spike. It was when the market gained that momentum. And I was very lucky to get offered three interviews and got offered three jobs. And that's when I started in the June of 2004. And I must put on record, I'm very, very thankful for the company I've just left, because if at a young 18 stroke 19-year-old, if there was people don't give children opportunities now, or young adults an opportunity, it's very hard for anyone to get into anything. And I appreciate with the current government, people are saying it's harder to give younger people an opportunity now, unless it is a true apprenticeship because of the minimum wage changes. But yeah, I'm very thankful. I wouldn't be here where I am today.
Right, can I just stop you there because I've already learned a lot about you in that I don't know however long you
Hmm.
were working, about your unbelievable work ethic, straight away, your willingness to actually come out your comfort zone and to not only write to every agent every week, but hand deliver it them.
Hmm.
Um, and also feeling a bit different to everyone else. So I just want to, if I can,
Of course you can.
dissect some of those. So how did it feel to be different to everyone else? And did you feel that you had a point to prove because of it?
Um, yeah, I think so. I think so, to be fair, because when I go back a stage again, I'm jumping backwards into a story, but I suppose we get to where we are from where I am now. We have the 11 plus system around here. So you still have grammar schools, which aren't private, they're funded by the council. So you take the 11 plus in year six and you will go to that. And I actually managed to pass my 11 plus. Um, so I got offered a place at the local grammar school. And when I walked in there, they went, I can't believe you've passed 11 plus. And I'm sure that's what they were thinking. But I said to my mum, I'm not going there. She said, what do you mean? I said, well, they're making it sound like it was a fluke or I shouldn't go there. I said, I shouldn't be made to feel like that. So I actually chose not to go to a grammar school. I went to a local school, mixed school, and everyone was shocked by that. But I think after all the effort people put in, they probably didn't mean it that way. But as a 11-year-old child, I took it as I shouldn't have been there, and it was a fluke I was there. So I said, well, I'm definitely not going there. So that's sort of, I think they're the things where you don't intentionally mean to prove people or prove people right or wrong, but I think things happen and it sort of pushes you in that journey to want to prove people wrong. Not in a nasty way, but just for yourself.
Yeah, it's interesting. Um, just coming back to you, writing to every agent every week and hand delivering them.
Hmm.
Um, there's a lot of people, most probably, that are watching this now, that are actually starting in agency. Um, and actually, just coincidentally, I had a random call yesterday from somebody in Wales, who's actually a driving instructor at the moment. And he wants to become an estate agent. He's a landlord.
Yeah,
He wants to become an estate agent. And I think you've demonstrated already, what people can actually do,
yeah,
and what you can actually get from, I don't know, I'm going to be a little bit cruel to some people out there, so a bit of tough love, but actually getting off your backside, putting the effort and energy into it, and it just shows with the reward, that you've got,
yeah.
which is great. So, for people that are watching this, getting out their comfort zone, you know, how do you do that, and why is it so important?
Yeah, I think for me, you have to when you've got something like I've got, and I say had a lot of the time now because I've adapted my life to accommodate the weakness or the strength of what that brings with it. So I had a lot of time when I'd want to write something, I knew what word I wanted to use, but I couldn't spell it, so I'd have to change the whole sentence to put that in. So I'm very lucky with technology now that it does help because um, even before the AI days, you could spell check, you could change things, you could sit down, save it, reread it. When you had pen and pencil, it wasn't getting out your comfort zone. But a lot of the days, it became second nature because anything that you had to do at school, and I had to stand or be in a class and was. putting out my comfort zone every day, to be fair, where it became the norm to be out my comfort zone, I would imagine. So I suppose the levels keep raising for things like that. I can remember standing in front of my whole primary school group, probably year three, and the teacher said, "Right, we're going to write sentences today. You need to put a this will probably make you laugh, or it makes me laugh now, but you need to put a capital letter at the start of every sentence and a full stop at the end of every sentence. Can everybody do this?" And I said, "Yep." And they went, "You can do this, Jamie." I said, "100% I can do this. I've got it." They went, "Sorry, you're." I said, "Yeah, don't need any help. I can do it. Yeah, I'm like the rest of them today. I'm like the other 29 people in this class. I can do it." They said, "Ah, okay." Away we went. So we went off. Stephen sat down at a desk and started writing. So I was writing away as I could have at best of the time. And about third or fourth, I went first, but I said, "I finished." She went, "You finished, Jamie?" I said, "Yeah, definitely finished." They said, "Okay, bring it over to me." So I got out of my chair as proud as punch. Off I went. She said, "What's this?" I said, "Well, I've put a capital letter at the start of every sentence and a full stop at the end of every sentence." She went, "Show me." I said, "No problem." So it was lined paper, Stephen. So you can imagine I've got a pad here actually. So I've got a line pad here, and goes down that way. Basically, all I did was write a capital at the start of every sentence and a full stop. So it's capital all the way down there, full stop down there. I didn't realise that what a sentence was, that there was more, it could go on to multiple lines. So wherever I was in the sentence, the start of the column had a capital and the end had a full stop. Well, imagine my embarrassment of then having to sit back down. I've got it completely wrong. So they're the sort of things where out your comfort zone. But I used other things. I used communication skills and sport, believe it or not. I excelled in, without blowing my own trumpet, got a good level of football, and I played tennis and table tennis and things like that. And I think I've got my own son now who's 14 on Saturday, and I watch kids that go through his school, and it disappoints me in a little bit, which I know you said hang tight, things are a bit controversial. We don't give winners' medals out for sports days anymore. And but I would then go the following Friday to his primary school and watch someone get a gold medal for English literature or language or mathematics. And it really, really got to me. And my partner said to me, lady said to me, what's the problem, Jamie? Bear in mind, she works in the primary school he went to, which was always sort of quite awkward. She went, "I don't see the problem." I said, "I can tell you the problem. I would have never have been one of them kids on stage getting my maths was actually pretty good, to be fair, or very good. But my English, I'd never get a gold star for English, but I used my PE to excel and be accepted by my peers and my friends, and I used these things to excel. And if I didn't get gold medals for football or for table tennis or for tennis or for athletics or long distance running, I'd never have been I'd never been recognised as and probably been accepted by my peers because they would probably say to me, "Oh, Dafty, you can't write, but tell you what, I want you in my football team." So I had friends around from that. So it does bother me when at the moment we don't always praise for and I fear for future generations of will we have athletes that are going to be winners if it's okay to finish sixth in your running event, 100 meters, but you're praised for gold in English. It's a strange one for me these days.
Well, don't get me started about schools. So
Yeah,
we'll move on. So
yeah. In
uh,
fact, I just want to say, amazing. I know I was in my previous company that what you did with the computers and laptops for schools, but what a phenomenal thing that was, Stephen. And I always say it when I see you, but wow, you were very generous to the school that my son went to. So yeah, it's amazing. Thank you very much.
thank you. And we're gonna come on to charity because I know you do an amazing job. You're a regional ambassador of Agents Giving. But I don't want to jump the gun too much.
Okay.
So let's come back. So at 18, you got three jobs. You obviously accepted one. You stayed there for 21 years.
21 a bit years, yeah.
21 years. So there must have been quite a few learnings from when you started to
Yeah.
where you ended. So what were your learnings?
My learnings, great question. So for me, my personal learnings were I'd already sort of adapted this in a way, but nothing. nothing replaces the human. I think computer and AI and stuff is amazing. I'm not one of the people who say I don't want it. I'm not a dinosaur, but nothing will ever replace the human. The important things in life, you still want, if you can, to speak to somebody face to face. So I learned very quickly. I worked in a pub when I was um, 14 as a pot washer. Then I went to be a waiter, then a barman in the same village pub. It was reward when it was in the Times top 10 Sunday roasts or whatever it was back in the day. And you'd have a various people, and you would very quickly learn how to greet somebody. And it sounds crazy, but if you were a youngster that might want to be called mate, and if they were a man of or a man or lady of a certain age, they might want to be called sir, good evening. And it was very, I learned communication and people skills is probably the biggest thing I learned from doing that job, which I then took into a state agency. And I always remember the early days of a state agency when it was probably not computers, but if you were ever unsure of what to call someone, you'd call them, "Hello, Mr. Brown," if I was talking to you. You would never call someone a mate. You would never call them by their Christian name. If you were unsure, it would always be Mr. Brown. And even to the day I left, people would say, "Can you stop calling me by that?" And I'd be like, "Oh yeah, sorry, you've told me that before." But your go-to was how to address people and how to greet people. So I think the biggest learning is communication skills. If you have a problem with your bank now and someone's frauded or something's happened fraud wise, the first instinct you've probably got is, if you live in a town where the bank, is to go into your bank because you desperately want to speak to somebody face to face and explain what's happened, and them to go, "Don't worry, come through here, we can sort it." So I think technology is great, but I think it probably makes the human better because it cuts down jobs where I don't need to pay a check-in anymore because I don't actually need the interaction with somebody there. I can scan it on my phone, but it gives the people that want to speak to people face to face more time to be able to do that. So time management, I suppose, there and communication skills is key.
Okay, well, I'm going to come back onto time management because I think that's very important. And I just want to share with you because I think there's some massive communication points and communication and first impressions is really, really important. And you just reminded me of some stories of my old Green and Company days where actually I lost instructions because somebody was a doctor and I called them a mister. Somebody had a OBE after their name, and I forgot to put that on the letter. It didn't even occur to me. So,
Yeah.
obviously it's very important to them, and I didn't think it was. So, there's a lesson there about how you how you ask for people, what their salutations are and stuff like that. And then within the last year, I've been into an estate agency, and the greeting after finally getting off her desk and off the phone after us waiting there for 10 minutes and her also spitting out her crisps when she saw us was when she finally opened the door was, "What do you want?" That was our greeting.
Ouch.
And I said, "Oh, I've just looked in your window. Can I ask you what are those things in your window?" So she said, "Oh, houses." So I said, "And are those houses, are you selling?" So she said, "Yes." So I said, "Well, that's why we're here to buy a house." And she went, "Oh." It's like, really? And you wonder
Yeah.
why estate agents have a bad name? It's just, it's scary, really, really scary. So,
And a bit of tough love with the youngsters in the office as well. People that worked with me for a while probably know it, but we'd have youngsters in, and I would say again about, "Please don't call people mate, and please don't do this, and please don't do that." And we'd have a bit of a joke about it. And the ones that are, I'd say, seasoned pros that have been with me for a while, if the youngster would answer the phone and go, "Hello, mate," they'd look at me and they'd go, "Oh no," and I'd go, they'd wait for me to put the phone down. I'd go, "Hello, oh mate, all right." I said, "Do you meet him often then out of work?" And then he'd go, "No, I've never met him before." I say, "Oh, well, so I guess your family friends or something." Then I'd go, "No," and I'd go, "Don't ever call someone mate," and we'd have a bit of a laugh about it. But that's again the I might be getting a bit older in this stage now, and the generational thing of people that yeah, just what you learn. But people might think I'm a dinosaur. I don't know, but it's yeah, it's interesting how you greet people.
maybe I'm going to put a poll on LinkedIn after this.
Yeah,
just ask about the mate question, and we'll see what response we have.
definitely.
Be interesting. So coming back, you mentioned time management, and obviously that's really important. How agents manage their time. How do you? How did you? And I'm sure you're going to be doing a lot of it now. But how would you prioritize your time if if you're new to agency, or even if you're more established at agency?
Yeah. I think the people probably can complicate things and they've probably got a lot better ways than what I do it. But old-fashioned to-do list, be it on your phone, be it on a pad, prioritize. And if you're going to do something, have it set in your diary for today, for prime example. I'm doing this at 11 o'clock. It's in my diary for 11 o'clock. It's non-negotiable. It's in there and stick to that plan. And when you review your day at the end of it, I'll be I know that you can't, no one can be perfect and get it all done, but my to-do list is still here on paper, maybe old-fashioned. I've just shown you there. And then what I don't get done today will go to tomorrow. But there's things in my diary that are non-negotiable. There's 5 things in there today that are non-negotiable. Got to be done by the time I leave here.
Okay. I absolutely love that. Um, so I think I was at my last two masterminds in the last couple of weeks, and one of the questions I actually asked are, could you write down your five daily non-negotiables? And for me, one non-negotiable, if I was an estate agent today, would be to make sure that I have got 1 hour of business generation or creating relationships in my diary, scheduled every day with a whole aim of just getting one market appraisal. And I think if people can understand, if you can get one extra market appraisal a day, that's 250 a year. If you can convert one in two, that's 125. If you sell 70 of those, hopefully more, but if you sell 70 of those and the average UK fee is 3 grand, that's an extra £210,000 worth of
Hmm.
revenue a year. Why would that not be a non-negotiable scheduled in your diary every day?
Yeah, definitely, 100% agree that. And the company I work for, they are very good at taking from the beginning to the end to teach you them things of priorities and having a pad or a phone or whatever works. And I think it becomes second nature, like you say, Stephen. Once you put it in for somebody, they go, "Oh yeah, should have done that before." But you get lost in lots of different things. But it works. And even if you use a software system to follow up or something to give reminders, there'll be something in there which can definitely. I think if you go in the morning and let the day control you and just you'll easily get to 5:30, but not you'd probably review that day and think, I probably wasn't as gone as well as I wanted it to be fair.
Okay, and actually, that's a really good point for people that are watching this or listening to this about actually reviewing your day, and also celebrating some wins
Yeah.
because we know what it's like. This is a real roller coaster. We're going to have some amazing days, and excuse my language, we're also going to have some shitty days as well. So
Hmm.
it's really important. Celebrate the wins,
Yeah.
and also just keep some form of accomplishments of what you've done. So if you are having a down day, get your phone, look at it and say, do you know what? The evidence is we've had really, really good days as well,
Hmm.
and that helps. So, um, apart from greeting people, building relationships, or communication, people skills, what else? Give us two other things that you learned that would help people.
Uh, One of them, I smile because it brings a smile to my face still now. But with a manager that's still there of the company that I've just left, they we used to say people buy off people. And that's a thing that you learn, to be fair. You're not going to get on with everybody. And I can remember, Stephen, the first day I started a state agency, I was like, I am going to please every single person I meet. No matter what they are, everyone's going to walk away from here and go, wow. Within about a month and a half, we did this amazing job for someone in Grantham. And I was like, they are going to be blown away by us as a team, not just me, but as a team, what we've done for them. I was like, they are going to be literally wax lyrical about this company and this branch and what we've done for them. And on the day of completion, they asked for £500 off. And I was like, wow. And the chap turned to me in his desk and just swung his chair and he went, I've told you, you're never going to please everybody. And I was like, wow, you're right. I didn't think that would be a thing. So you've got to, like you just said, build relationships with the people you can, and so people buy off people, but you cannot please everybody. It's something I've learned, to be fair. And probably the second one, and this is the one that I use all the time. And if long I've got a long life left on this planet, but if it was something I could two things I could write in my head, then this would be one of them, which is brilliant basics creates magic moments. And if you do every single thing basic, follow-up systems, like you just said, time management, you do everything, the basics right, the good moments, i.e., if it's a sale or a lettings or a mortgage, whatever bit you work in, they do come. A very, very, very unlucky person does all the basics right and doesn't get no reward for it.
Okay, love that. Brilliant basics create
Creates
magic.
magic moments.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Lovely. So, talk about your new business. So, there's
Hmm.
going to be people here that may be going down their own, setting up their own business.
Yep,
Quite daunting.
massively.
Do that. Knowing you and knowing your work ethic, you're going to succeed and you're going to be
Thank you.
absolutely fantastic. Um, where do people start? How are they going to get their first instruction?
I genuinely can't answer that question, but what I think I would say is that you need a network. Would you go and drop yourself, Stephen Brown, who's had a great career in estate agency and as a leader and a mentor, would you come to Sleaford tomorrow, jump yourself an office on the high street and plonk yourself on it and pay all these um, memberships and things you need to suppliers to have an office or decide not to have an office? I would say build a good network of people while you're doing your apprenticeship, i.e., while you're learning the trade, build yourself a good network of people around you. And then your first instruction, I'm 95% sure, will come from either the chance of you've punked the high street and someone walked in. Maybe there's a reason they've come to you and not the other five or six on your high street. You might not want them, but the good network of people will bring you instructions. And it might be a business club, it might be a, a sports club, it might be something. You've got to people to go, oh, you're Jamie, the estate agent. And it might not want that, but that's what you've got to have to have a good network of people and a
Okay,
trustworthy.
good. I'm also going to share one tip. So this,
Yeah.
I would go to my phone, I would scroll to my contacts, go to Z and it tell you how many contacts you've got on your phone.
I'm going to do that now. I'm on the phone to you.
Okay. And then what I would do is I would phone every single person in my phone and I would say, I've got some really exciting news that I want to share with you. I've just opened my own estate agency in whatever town. Can I ask you, who do you know, friends, family, colleagues, neighbours that next looking to sell that I can help or that is really struggling at the moment that I can give some free advice to? Um, and you'll be surprised what you will get from that and how much business you will get from your phone. Just a question of, again, something that you said earlier, the scheduling. What gets scheduled gets done. So for me, starting it off every day, that would be scheduled in my diary. That's what I'm going to do.
I've got 1,061 contacts in my phone that have been obviously with me over the journey. And it interesting you say that because getting the message out there, I have come out of my comfort zone. As I was joking, I've got a face for a radio. It should be on video, but I don't know if you've seen over the weekend. I've just launched a couple of videos ready for the new year about what I'm doing and where I'm going. And the first video had on Saturday. It got launched on Friday night. It had 23,000 full views, and even me, I was flabbergasted by that. And I thought, that can't be right. 23,000 full views of people, like you say, getting that word out there. So your contacts is a great shout, like you said. And then moving out your comfort zone and doing video and posting it. And it's in local selling groups and my Facebook and my company page. And it's shared. And I think it had hundreds and something shares. But yeah, all them people. I've got 2,500 friends on Facebook. I've not certainly not 23,000 on, and it's probably gone up since then. So
That's amazing. And actually, you've just that's a really important message that you've given. So again, I want to come back to coming out your comfort zone and doing that video because I've got a face of radio as well, and I don't mind.
We'll be right together.
I don't mind admitting it. So there you go. We've both come clean today. Um, but that's a big step to do. And you've just shown actually, again, and I know I'm maybe slightly contradicting myself, but actually, would you rather make 5, 10 calls in an hour or reach 23,000 people in an hour?
It's personable as well, isn't it? Do you know what I said about people greeting people and seeing that? There's a few things in there. There's probably a couple of stutters and a few things where I repeat myself or say something, but that's the human. That's the what people not want to see, but they're like, oh, he's quite personable, or he stood in front of the local church, or he's in this cafe, he's in this restaurant. Uh, things become relatable.
And I think it shows that you're more authentic,
Mm,
by doing that and standing out. So fair play to you.
thank you.
Also know that you've got your own podcast,
Yes.
so, the Property Premier League. So, what made you start that, and how have you found that?
I must admit, Chris Mervyn start. Well, it's his brainchild, should I say? I sat with him many years ago on the Property Mart board of the local delegate, and he messaged me out of the blue and said, "Oh, would you fancy being involved in this?" And I thought he meant as a co-host, but I think he might have meant as a guest to start with. Um, but anyway, I ended up saying, "Yeah, I'd love to co-host it." And if you know me and you see me locally, you probably know that the two greatest things that I love talking about is houses, as in the property market, and football. And I've got such an interest. I'm UEFA B, I've coached kids. I don't get involved in adult football, but I've done Forest, Leicester at the time, Lincoln. I've done all these areas of coaching my kids, and I love football, and it gives so much back. And I think it probably goes back to my beginning of the dyslexia and being able to excel and these things. So I love seeing kids that can develop and do these things. So that's one of them. And the other thing I like talking about is houses. So when they said, "Do you want to do this podcast?" I was like, "Yeah, I do." And do you know what? You go on there, we recorded this myself and Steve Green. Steve Green was started his own company 5 years ago, worked for someone for a similar time to me, and he did a podcast recently with Ange Cooney. And if you listen to that, he's a phenomenal person for what he's been to and what he's going through to get where he is now. And we have it. The podcast's an hour roughly. Some are 40 minutes, some are an hour. We're on for an hour and a half, and we just chat property. We chat football before at the end, and you genuinely feel better. And I understand now where I'm touch wood. I've been quite lucky with my own mental health, but it's just good to talk to somebody, and you're not someone you have to explain things to, Stephen. I could pick the phone to you and say, "This has happened on a sale today," or "This is happening going wrong," or "My football team's rubbish," and you'd go, "Yeah, I support Spurs, Jamie, the better in your team." Blah blah blah. Have a bit of a joke about it, a bit of a
I
laugh
don't
about
think
it,
so.
but it's someone you're not having to explain the backstory to or what it actually means. And you pick the phone up, we have an hour and a half, and I come off, and sometimes one of us will be a little bit, oh, bad day or whatever. We come back and go, "Do you know what? I really enjoyed that." So we're trying to move it. This week we've got um, a mental health person coming on, so nothing to do with property, just to talk about that. And I generally see talking does help, and you don't realize when you listen to somebody or they listen to you or you throw back a different thing. It does genuinely help. So I've loved every second of it. Sometimes I'm sure the other lads will say, you think, "Oh no, I haven't got an hour to do this," but you put the hour aside, like you said, planning, get it in the diary. You give him back, it feels good, and it is a good thing to come up about. Unfortunately, I support Everton, so there's not many weeks I talk about great wins, but we're doing all right this season. So I think if they'd
Yeah.
asked me for the last two seasons, it'd have been a different answer. But yeah,
Okay. Look, a couple of things I just want to pick on. I listened to Steve Green's podcast and Angie's podcast, and it was exceptional.
wow,
And Steve, if you're watching this, you are very inspirational, gent,
second that.
and you know I know what you're going through, and it is challenging, but you are inspiring and helping loads of people. And Angie, Thank you for sharing Steve's story. And if you haven't, please do go and listen to that podcast because you're spot on. And this is a serious bit now. What you see and how people seem on the outside and what they feel on the inside is two totally different things. So,
Mhm.
be kind to people and hate people and help people make a massive difference. So thanks for bringing that up. A couple more questions just from there, and I'm conscious of time.
No, you're fine. Yeah.
Um, so you talked about coaching. So what lessons have you brought in from all your UEFA badges to actually into property?
Probably the biggest lesson in football, which is dealing with people, isn't it? That you're managing people's expectations. In a house sale, you've been there, Stephen, you sit there and someone goes, this is going to sell really quickly. And you go, okay, we haven't even discussed the price yet. And they go, yeah, honestly, this is going to sell really quickly. And you think, I'm up against it. And you get people, so you're managing expectations. And football's exactly the same. I always say, if you make your worst player your best player in your office or in your football team, you haven't got a problem. Don't be scared to praise the ones that are, because in football there's different strivers and excellers and things like that. Manage them, cater for them, but if you can make your worst player your best player, you won't have a problem. Because to be honest, the exceller, you've just got to keep tickling them along and pushing them. They've got their own targets. They've got their daily target in the office. They know what they want to earn at the end of the month. They know they want to go to Disney again in next summer. They know what money they need, this, and this. They're great. You just need to tickle them and push them and help them along to do that. But the ones that struggle are the ones where if you can make them as good as the other one, you're going to have no problems in it. And that's the same with the football team. And people go through patches. People go through patches. That's what happens in football and in the office. Um, and you don't all of a sudden become a bad player or you don't all of a sudden become a good player. There's things you need to help and coach people. So I suppose you're forever reading a room. And when I take out the office side of it, take the football side of it. When I greet my players at training, because I still run an under 14s football team, and I greet them before I play a match, I will personally go and high five every single one of them lads. They're 14 now, so it used to be a bit of a joke, but 14. And I'll look at them and I'll think, I've watched you walk across that car park. I know what you're going to be like today, what you need from me to make you better. I've got ones that run in, they're there half an hour earlier, they're doing keep ups, they're getting warm, they want to be it. I'm like, he's on his game. He's not today. I'm going to watch him and I'm going to make the first 20 minutes about him and get him up to that level. And it's that perception of your office, you'll be sat there and what's that saying? Is it class is permanent, form is temporary, I think it is. And that is, you know what you can get out of somebody, but there'll be times when they go through a patch where every phone call seems to be a cancellation and you think you've got to save there's nothing you can do about that. If we've tried to save it, it's unrectifiable. Let's go and find something to put this right. Right, what are we going to do today to forget that and move on? Football player, he tries something. I hate to, when I'm still on the sidelines, people scream and shout at kids. I'm like, no, no. If you don't let them develop, they're never going to learn. So they've tried something once, it hasn't worked. Is that because they didn't quite get it right or is it wrong? They try it again, it doesn't work. You then say to them, come here, what can we do different? Not you've done that wrong. What is that gone how you want it to? It hasn't actually. So what can we do different this time? And it's the same in the office. If you try something and I suppose the same old, I jump back to it. How many people try and sell a mortgage to somebody, a mortgage appointment? And they open and answer Crow's question. Do you want a mortgage appointment? No. Okay. You ask that 10 more times. Nope, nope, nope. So what are we going to do? How are we going to change how we do that to get a different reaction from that? And that's a big thing in what I always say to people, you can't be me, I can't be you, but this is the end goal. We can all do a snakes and ladder pass, but we all want to get to there. But all we can do is help each other because you can't speak like me and I can't speak like you. So you've got to, we know where we want to go, but you've got to try and do it your way. But your way might still be the right way, but it's going to be different to the next person. So in a coach of a football team, is reading the room, reading the players, reading the squad, who's up, who's down. And I suppose it's the same with an office, really. So I probably blabbered it on a little bit too long there, but that's probably my answer on that.
Lovely, lovely answer. You also mentioned property, Mark.
Hmm.
Importance of being a member and
Yeah,
regulation.
yeah. It's like a law, isn't it? Anyone that that abides by the law will want to be a member and are all probably already a member. But I think it will weave out the wheat from the chaff a little bit, and there shouldn't be. No one does anything intentionally wrong, but there is people out there that an estate agency. When I joined, I think we was at the conference of days thing. Did someone say that there's only parking attendants below what are most disliked out of estate agents or something like that? It's because of when in the back in the day there were rogues that were doing it. It is a lot more regulated now, but I'm all for it. Look, people don't get everything right. I know that, but to have a basis of an understanding is great. We jump back to your conversation a second ago. A taxi driver, or no, a driving instructor, rang you yesterday, wants to become an estate agent. I'm not against that. I'm all for that. But technically, he could become an estate agent today and be
Yeah,
sat in someone's front room saying, "This is what I think. This is what I would do," and that's it. I'm not against people learning because obviously I wanted to learn, but to all start with a level platform should hopefully improve the image of the industry overall. So to be a member, yes. To be regulated, yes.
yeah. And actually, fair play to the gentleman who called because he wanted to know all the right things to do
Yep.
before actually starting and doing it. So, just in case you're listening. Okay.
Yes.
Um, let's finish by the amazing charity the work that you do. I know you've run marathons. I know you do a lot for your local hospices and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And you're also the regional ambassador for Agents Giving.
Hmm.
What made you decide to get involved with charity and Agents Giving and the great work they do?
Okay. Uh, it's not an easy thing to talk about. I know you've been through personal loss, so tell me to stop at any stage if it's not the right thing to do. But unfortunately, I don't know, I say unfortunately, I was lucky to have my dad for 64 years on this planet. Unfortunately, he got aggressive cancer, which they thought they'd got hold of. And then it turned out they missed the speck of it that went into his bone. And then basically, by the time he passed away, unfortunately, it was everywhere. He tried trials for NASA. He took a NASA style of drug to for after chemo to try and make the anti-sickness better because he said, look, it's not going to help me, but it could help my grandson. So I get choked up with these things. But so it's 9 years ago now, but I watched him for a month. The last month, he couldn't sit down, he couldn't stand, he couldn't kneel, he couldn't get comfortable. He was in agony, and I mean total agony. And if it wasn't for that hospice that came in at the right time, because it's not all about them, it's about the people that are caring for them. So the ones that come along and they came along and I was working at the time in Spalding, which was 40-minute drive from where I live. And the company I work for were absolutely amazing, so I can't thank them enough for what they did to support me. But you don't know a date when that unfortunately the inevitable was going to happen. So you have to. I was young. I have to carry on working. So my daily routine would be to get up at my dad's house because he had a full package for care, but they couldn't have the people to sit for the night. So I'd split it 4 or 5 nights a week. I'd do it. So I'd get up from his house, which was down in a different town to me, Grantham. I'd then drive to my house. So I'd get him ready, drive to my house when my son got up because he was only 5 at the time. He would think I'd been there all night. I would then get see him have his breakfast. He'd go to school. I'd then go to work in Spalding. I'd then come back from Spalding, have tea with him before he went to bed. He was a youngster age. I would then go to my dad's house, get him his whatever he needed, and then go to bed and do the night thing with him and then just go repeat, 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 repeat. And I was lucky that I've got a brother, but he lived in Brighton, or he still does live in Brighton, obviously, which is a good 3.5 hours away with his family. My mum, who was actually my dad's ex-wife, was phenomenal. She came in and helped, and his brother and friends and family came round. But it, there was a stage where I found him crawling across the floor 2 o'clock one morning because he said, "You got here tonight and I could tell you were so tired." He didn't want to ring the bell for me to take him to the toilet. And I think the hospice stepped in at that stage and yeah, just made it more bearable.
Thank you for sharing that. Um, I know it's hard. I've been through something similar, but also I'm sure that people that are listening and watching, um, what you've just said is going to help loads and loads of people.
And I said I'd give every penny back for what they did. And I know it's astronomical and I still do a voluntary role for them. And I heard a hospice, I think it was in London, the first children's hospice in London is closing straight away. And there's a struggle on money. And yeah, it's phenomenal what they need to be able to operate. But yeah, I feel that you just got to give back what you can. And I know everyone hasn't got money to give, or if you've got time or money or whatever you can do to help, you've got to give that bit back to hopefully the next people will get help and it will manage to stay open if it can.
Okay, Jamie, thank you for being so open. One final question. What do you do to self-improve yourself?
Uh, That's a really good question. I always go by, but I suppose if I looked at myself in the mirror every morning and did something cheesy, I'd always go by something I've learned from back in them primary school days is I might not be the brightest candle, but I'm going to burn longer than you. And that's what I go by because with dyslexia, I knew that nothing was going to come easy, but I knew from an early age that I had to be different to everyone else. And I was going to have to, if you will work 7 in the morning till 7 at night, I'll work 7 in the morning till 8 at night. And was, I'm not saying I'm not advocate for that. And people have got to split. I've got a 14-year-old son and my dad was a workaholic. So I know that you've got to split your time right. But I also know the element of having to work. But with that, I always need to learn. I need to carry on learning. And my learning is different to everyone else's. You give me a book, I will have a go at it, to be fair. But if you give me an audio book or I can go to a conference and watch and learn things and speak to people, I will. But the thing that it doesn't matter how long you've done the job, like I said, 22 years. And for some of these people listening to this, I might be a rookie. They might have been doing it 30, 40 years, and there might be someone that's been doing it a week. Never stop learning. Don't close your mind to anything. You've Even if you try and it doesn't work, you've learned a lesson by it not working that you won't do that again or something similar to that. So yeah, that would be my thing to myself and to anyone is to never stop learning.
Okay, look, what a great place to leave it. What great advice. Jamie, you've been a real inspirational guest. Really enjoyed our chat. So thank you very much. Thank you everybody for watching and listening. Please like it, share it, pass it around, do whatever you need to do. And wish you a great Christmas, Happy New Year. And thank you all.